as we all know, we're in the middle of a global pandemic which has not only impacted the health sector severely but also the economy. This outbreak has gravely affected the real estate sector of India. Around 30% of India's labor force is engaged in this sector, and most of them have lost their jobs. This sector also has a multiplier effect on around 250 of its allied industries like steel, cement, etc. This sector was expected to contribute around 13% to the country's GDP by 2025 and become the third largest globally at $1 trillion. So today we have with us Mr. Ajay Vaswani, the Executive Director of the Vaswani Group, to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on real estate. He has an experience of 14 years in this sector. The idea of meeting and exceeding home buyers' expectations is his number one priority and his greatest expectation. His passion for real estate is highly commendable. Even in this particularly competitive environment, he has pulled through and persevered. He has been through all the tough times in the market and plans to face the pandemic as well.
Hello, sir. Hope you're keeping safe.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that absolutely fantastic introduction, Ananya. Really appreciate it. I'm actually at a loss of words to hear such a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing all my knowledge and all the information that I can help assist this wonderful group of Podara School and College. So let's have a go at this.
Sure, sir. Just to acquaint you, Yash and I, Hardik, will be conducting this interview.
Sure.
Let's start with our first question. As we know, aviation and hospitality sectors have taken a great hit due to this deadly virus. With what magnitude has your sector taken a hit, sir?
Right. So the real estate sector has anyways been wading through multiple storms since the last 5 years due to the impact of demonetization, goods and services tax, the RERA Act, increase in government premiums and regulations, etc. And it's been an ever evolving and a very, very fluid situation for the sector. And add to that, home sales have been pretty sluggish, to say the least. But over the last 12 months, there seems to have been a fairly positive recovery pan-India with regards to residential sales, as well as a historic record of commercial leasing of approximately 50 million square feet. Though my best guess estimate is that figure will probably hover to above 60 million by the end of December 19. Now, the impact of COVID-19 has been quite significant in terms of job losses, salary cuts, and the further liquidity squeeze, which was, a direct result of the NBFC crisis that was already in the system, since the last 12 to 18 months, perhaps. And then now delayed projects due to the mass exodus of, laborers going back to their villages. So these are fundamentally very difficult times, no question about that. However, I do believe that the sector, along with its stakeholders, are already collaborating to find a way out of these extraordinary circumstances by delivering and honoring their commitments to all the home buyers in a time-bound manner. Now, when you compare aviation and hospitality, there is no two ways about that these two sectors are even worse hit compared to real estate, primarily because airline seats, hotel rooms, restaurant tables, etc. are perishable commodities. A home or an office is not a perishable commodity. An empty seat on a flight, an empty hotel room for that night cannot be refilled on that particular flight or on that particular night. That is a loss of revenue for that particular seat or that particular room. Whereas in real estate, a home or an office is not a perishable commodity. If I build a home or an office today, it doesn't sell today, it can sell tomorrow, the day after that, or even after a year. So that's the primary difference between real estate and the other two sectors that you mentioned.
Yes, sir, indeed. The last 2 years have been quite tough for the real estate sector.
Absolutely.
Since the pandemic was unexpected, how has your business strategy changed from pre-COVID times to now?
So, over the last few years, there seems to be a massive push, and the buzzword over the last, 24 months has been digitalize, digitalize, digitalize. Everyone's talking digital. So, we've also been introspecting about, making this push to digitalize, our business functions purely for the sake of efficiency and convenience of operations, not because, it's necessarily the catchword. It looks good, it feels good, everyone's doing it, so we should do it. No, it's about what we believe, that the core is being efficient and convenience of operations. And like today in the real estate industry, marketing on digital platforms, across all your social media networks like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., WhatsApp, email marketing has become the new normal in terms of lead generation for a potential sale. Augmented reality, virtual reality technology now has the ability to assist the home buyer in experiencing the product while sitting in the comfort of his home, enabling him to make that purchase decision. So, as a business, we do believe that there needs to be an increased focus on the introduction of easy to operate technology by making it a force multiplier of sorts. Because I personally believe that if technology cannot be handled by a 10-year-old, it cannot be handled by a 50-year-old. So when technology is easy, when technology is simple, that's when it has, an across the board a greater effect in terms of making the entire operational efficiency convenient for an organization, and it makes the home buying experience for the prospective purchaser a lot more easier as well. And if while there is no doubt that the pandemic has severely impacted businesses globally, I don't think that there is any business as such that can claim that they were immune from the issues or the serious challenges that this pandemic has created. I also believe that it's too early to make any predictions regarding a complete overall of business models, especially in real estate in development. Since we are still a brick and mortar industry, we still need cement and steel on the site. We still need laborers. We still need engineers to be physically present on site to build the structure up. So I think that for now, I would probably say it with very boldly, but I think it's a utopian concept that real estate business models are going to go through a dramatic change, unlike probably, let's say, the information technology industry or banking, etc.
And sir, for example, earlier the potential investors had an inclination to view the property at ground zero. How has that been changed?
Like I said, augmented reality, virtual reality are options. There's drone camera shoots, e-brochures. There are multiple options today available to us as developers, and we are exercising those options. Trying to ease the discomfort that a potential buyer is going through, giving him these options that once the lockdown opens, this is what you can expect when you come to our site. And we're also trying to bridge the gap between the perception being all these tools that we have today in terms of marketing, and reality is when the clients come and visit the site on the ground. There shouldn't be too much of a disconnect when they come there. Hence, we work hard in bridging it by assisting the clients by offering them these virtual reality options and tools.
Sure, sir. So, coming to the government policies, the RBI has given a 2-year sabbatical for loans outstanding from March 2020 itself. What steps do you think the government can do to help the small and medium builders, sir?
Okay, so Hardik, I'll take a slightly different tune to this answer, because this answer requires, just a few lines of where we are today in terms of an ease of doing business aspect, since we're talking about the government. So as per the World Bank's ease of doing business ranking, India has remarkably risen to 63 in the year 2020, and that's a 14-place jump compared to last year. Considering we were languishing literally at the far end of the spectrum among 190 countries. In some cases, we were, just in and around where countries like Iran, Syria, Pakistan, countries that, absolutely do not compare to where India rightfully should be. India was languishing right down there. So I think it's very encouraging an initiative by the current government dispensation to reduce bureaucracy and red tapeism for businesses, especially in real estate. But however, this pandemic has made survival extremely challenging for the MSME segment across all business verticals, not just real estate. Whether it's consumer goods, it's information technology, it's banking, etc. Now, I am a firm believer that credit flow is the key. You need to make credit available as soon as possible to the small and the medium enterprise owners. You need to reduce interest rates further, single window clearance for approval so that they spend lesser time haggling with authorities on approvals, rather focus on the end product and assist in creating the demand. And that's where the RBI also needs to come in now and focus and try and find a way wherein we can have a one-time rollover of bank loans or a one-time restructuring, as some of India's top bankers are also urging the government to actively consider to kickstart the demand cycle. At the state government level, from a real estate perspective, it is an immediate and an imperative need for the local government and the local authorities to immediately slash building premium charges, further reduce stamp duty in order to bring back a push to the demand side at the local level. And that in further is going to be increasing the home buyers' confidence and incentivize hope.
Yes, sir. So, what are your views on government deciding to convert large unsold properties to quarantine facilities?
So, as nation builders, we're not just real estate developers, we build countries. That's what the fraternity does globally. Without real estate, without infrastructure, countries will cease to exist. Everyone needs a roof over their head, And as nation builders, it is our solemn duty to assist our fellow citizens and our government in these extraordinary, challenging times. And, many developers pan India. I mean, if you, Google this, you will, this is all fact-checked information that's available in a public forum. They have offered newly constructed buildings to authorities for quarantine and isolation purposes. I believe that, this needs to be a collaborative process. It doesn't have to be a dictatorial one. And that's why governments must pursue dialogue with developers and not coerce them, by suggesting that they're going to be, forcefully taking over the space and, implementing some obsolete act that was enacted during the British times. And I do believe that there are plenty of developers, all our fraternity members are very actively working very hard with the government, as well as at a personal level, at an association level, into trying to ease the pain of the citizens of the city and the country, as well as the government.
Exactly, sir. According to the statistics of Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry, there are 3.23 lakh constructed houses which are lying vacant. For instance, Rajasthan has approximately 10,000 vacant flats. Similarly, Gujarat has a stock of 55,000 houses. So now I request Yash to continue the rest of the interview.
So thank you, Hardik. How are we doing, sir?
Very well, Yash. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Okay. So pre-COVID, the real estate sector was already undergoing a credit crunch accompanied by the NBFC crisis. So for the viewers who are not aware of this, NBFC or non-banking financial institutions faced a crisis of credit crunch where they did not have enough money to lend and were facing issues raising funds. So to counter this problem, the government introduced a fiscal policy in the December of last year to hopefully drive the realty sector up by 6.6% in 2020. So, sir, according to you, how did this policy bring about a change in the sector before the pandemic?
Okay, so this government specifically, they've been pretty hard at pushing their flagship scheme, which is called the PMAY scheme, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. That in English, that's just affordable housing. All right, but that's the need of the hour. That's what the nation needs. They need crores and crores of maybe like over a couple of crore homes that need to be built in the affordable housing space year on year, probably for the next 5 to 7 years, for every Indian to have a home. That's what has been this government's vision in terms of housing for all for 2022. However, I do believe that there is a lot that is left to be desired in terms of deregulation of the sector to support this vision. And unfortunately, COVID-19 has been a huge setback to this goal. So perhaps the government may have to now revise these figures of housing for all for about 2025. Coming back to the 6.6% growth figures that were reported in some media articles, they were pretty bullish, no doubt about that. And I think that the industry could have been way further ahead already this time of the year had it not been for COVID. Now there is one very, very noble scheme that the government of India has come up with, which was obviously been backed and started by SBI. It's called the Swami Fund. The Swami Fund is a 25,000 crore fund to finish stalled projects. However, I do believe that this amount is very, very insignificant, and the capital infusion should be nothing less than 1 lakh crores for it to reach out to all the distressed, unfinished residential projects across the country that is at a pan-India level.
So, sir, how long do you think it will take for, to achieve that view of reducing the unfinished projects?
Well, it's definitely about 18 to 24 months time from the date that the funds reach the developer, which is obviously monitored by a high-powered committee that the SBI has put in place for it.
Yeah. So, sir, as interest on home loans have been reduced to an extent by SBI in an attempt to attract buyers, does purchasing a new property become appealing in the near future?
So Yash, SBI and also a few days ago, LIC Housing Finance, has dropped its home loan interest rates to the sub 7, so it's about 6.9, which should hopefully trigger other banks to follow suit and compete with each other while clearly benefiting the home buyer. And I think that there is no better time than to buy a home now. I know I'm saying that as a developer, but numbers don't lie, and the reality and the facts on the ground don't lie either. And according to me, buyers will be spoiled for choice, and it's the perfect headache today for them.
So I agree with you that it's a perfect time because the prices must have exponentially dropped. But so, while taking into consideration that due to this pandemic, a lot of households have been affected, their incomes have been affected, some have even lost their jobs. So during these times, people will rather save money than go out and buy houses. So what do you have to say on this?
So there is some part of what you're saying is the truth. That yes, there have been job losses, and there have been some significant salary cuts too. However, what we are experiencing at this very moment, what we are witnessing as a company, and as I speak to my industry colleagues very often as well, and my associates around, we're actually not seeing any downside right now. We are seeing buyers out there. Buyers are there. They're looking. They're talking. They're actively visiting. They want to have a conversation. Of course, the perception and reality is the gap between pricing. If a developer decides that I am willing to marginally discount my asset, my product, the buyer is willing to maybe add some more because he's seeing a beautiful home, a quality home. And you know what, Yash, please understand one thing, that the biggest decision an average Indian will take in his lifetime is not marriage, is buying a home. Absolutely. This is statistically proven, and let no one dispute this fact with you at any point in time. Buying, I'm going to repeat myself, home buying is the single biggest experience that Indian or a human in general is going to go through, So, and I think everything is looking relatively encouraging. If we see this trend, then the recovery, what I thought will take 12 to 18 months when we were completely in a lockdown state, pandemic, businesses were shut, offices were shut. When we came back, we were like, okay, where to now? How are things going to shape out? We always thought that, it's going to be doom and gloom, at least for the next, 9, 10, 12 months before we see maybe even an iota of a recovery, but we have been pleasantly surprised. From the day we've opened the office, we've been receiving phone calls, clients out there, they've been wanting to come and see. Of course, as a responsible developer and a member of the fraternity, we're also making sure that while they do come to our sites, there's social distancing norms, and hygiene, masking is essential, keeping a gap of an hour between, two visits, disinfecting the premises. So we're being socially responsible towards our society. And I do believe that what's also happening in China and the US, and this is Googleable information as I may call it, there's a revenge buying spree. So everyone thought there's going to be doom and gloom in China, the American economy is going to collapse, but people out there are actually going and lining up outside high-end fashion stores, or they're just going and buying homes like as if there was no pandemic. So let's hope that that kind of revenge buying also trickles down into India soon. And last word on this is that honestly, I am a lot more bullish today than I was 3 months ago.
So like you said, that the outcome of this pandemic is kind of unexpected from my point of view, and I think many who are looking at this interview, we all thought that many of us might have, that every sector and real estate sector would be included in this the low that every sector would hit due to, for this pandemic. But it's actually great to realize that hey, the sales have risen. So, and like you said, you are expecting a early recovery. So according to the Center for Asia Pacific Aviation, the Indian aviation sector will take around 2 years to recover, as most Indian airlines operate on a low-cost basis. Post-COVID, how long do you think it will take for the real estate sector to bounce back to its prior situation?
So like I told you in my earlier answer, that 12 to 18 months is I would probably have given for real estate to revive. When it comes to aviation, they have one product. They have an aircraft, they have an airline, and then they divide that whether you're low cost or you're full service, you have economy, premium economy, business first, whatever. Whereas in real estate, we have multiple asset classes. You have residential, you have commercial, you have retail. That includes malls, high street shopping. You have information technology parks. You have logistics and warehousing parks, and you have hotels too. So I think the chain is longer, which is a lot more solid, because when one revives, it gives an opportunity for the other to revive as well. So yes, 12 to 18 months is a more rational expectation. But that's what the mind says. But the heart wants to believe 6 to 9 months, hoping that these certain green shoots that we're witnessing now actually pull through in the coming festive season.
Let's hope this all gets over as soon as possible and everything gets great again. So sir, now the question we have all been eagerly waiting for. In your opinion, will the real estate prices drop or increase after the pandemic?
That's the golden question for last. So that's a question on everyone's mind. I think whether it is a top businessman or an average home buyer, an affordable home buyer, everyone's got that question. So if you see 2019, there's anyways been a rational correction in prices since last year, and homes today across all the residential segments, that's whether it's luxury, it's mid-range, or whether it's affordable, are at its lowest in terms of pricing. There is a real-time possibility that these prices may never come back again. And I do firmly believe that this window of opportunity in terms of taking advantage of these prices will perhaps not last more than 12 months. That's for sure. Because all the existing inventory that's being built or just to be completed is either at the finishing stage or is ready possession, or some of it is just off the ground. So considering that due to constraints of labor at the sites, the ones that are nearer to completion and the ones that are, pretty much complete will obviously now command a higher price because, there's less risk involved to it. So I think that ready possession is definitely going to be commanding a premium. And I think it's a fantastic time to buy. Never before historically has been a time like this to buy. And please remember one thing. I know you guys are, 12 standard, young, ambitious, and will obviously have a great future. real estate is always a waiting game. You invest money in a home or as an investment with a 10-year horizon and nothing less. And if you do that with the mindset, whether it's 10 or 15 years, you're going to have an absolutely winner record for sure.
Thanks a lot, sir. We will now be concluding this interview.
The residential sector continues to underperform as an asset class, impacting the investor demand. A stable demand combined with prudent launches by players had restored some supply-demand balance over the financial year 18-19. However, the COVID-19 related lockdown has resulted in a rise of the unsold inventory levels to over 15 quarters at the end of the financial year of 2020. The ongoing pandemic is likely to push overall residential demand in 2020 down over 25% from a year ago. Thank you, Mr. Ajay, for your time and gracious presence. We're grateful to have you impart some knowledgeable insight into this vast sector and to keep us well informed during these rough times. We'd also like to thank our teacher, Manisha ma'am, for her supportive and patient guidance and kind help throughout this process. We'd like to thank R.N. Podar School for giving us this great opportunity. Stay tuned for the next episode.